Good morning, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Boquete Now, Talk Radio, coming at you live on Radio Cherokee 103.3 FM, serving Boquete, Volcan, Bocas del Toro, and all points in between. We are sponsored by Big Daddy's Grill, Boulder 54, and the Tap Out Sport Zone. We've got an informative show for you today. We're going to be talking about the most recent restrictions, quarantine, curfews, and other items that were given to us by MINSA in response to the rising infection rate and mortality rate here and the RT rate with COVID-19. It is very, very possible that Chris Young may cruise by to talk to us about how this affects restaurants and other type places like that. He very busy guy. I know he's got a lot going on. He said he might try to swing by today, and if he does, it'll be good to talk to him. I have it on good authority that my friend Dr. Shannon Tour might be calling in a little bit later on the show, because we're going to be covering vaccines and a bunch of stuff as well. So as you all know, and if you don't, well, you're going to find out now, that MINSA has put out some quarantine information, some curfew information, and some other restrictions because of the rising infection rates. As you know, from what they've been putting out, maybe you've been following the information I've been putting out, that our situation here is getting, let's just say it's not ideal. It is getting worse. And they put out several different press releases, and I've kind of combined them into one here. And I want to start off by letting you know their reasoning behind this and some of their considerations. The decisions that they've made with these new restrictions, curfews, and quarantines, they're based on evidence and on the balance of the economic needs of the country. There are social and health aspects applied to this, and also, their observations and their analysis of the information as it comes in from the various sources that they get their information from. Some of their considerations include the health checkpoints. They were lifted, as we know, in Panama and city in Panama West. I think it's West, Panama West, yeah. So that resulted in the mobilization to other provinces from those areas. And as you know, Panama and Panama West were pretty badly impacted by this. A majority of the cases and the mortalities and the other problems associated with this were concentrated in the city. Well, it's a city, you're going to expect that. However, when they lifted the mobility restrictions between the provinces, infections were carried out into the interior, and they've obviously made it to this side of the country in Cherokee. And problem happened with this mobilization. All right, the national highways were opened up, people were traveling freely, and it was nice. Of course, obviously, we were real glad to get through with the lockdown, as it were. Problems started happening around Mother's Day, and shortly after Mother's Day, with 3-4 days after Mother's Day, the contagion curve rose really, really sharp, and that was the beginning of the observations, and it was the beginning of the recording of the information that led to these new restrictions. Even though they were prohibited, meetings, parties, and otherwise activities that hadn't been authorized yet rose. More people were getting together. There were more parties. Like I said, Mother's Day is a big holiday here. It's a big holiday everywhere, as it should be. But that's pretty much started I guess you would call the entrance into what the WHO calls phase 4 of a contagion. And that represents community transmission with the significantly accelerated transmission phase. In March, we went into a state of emergency. And we have not come out of that. Officially, that's never been lifted. And with that state of emergency, there are, in the Panamanian Constitution, there are several amendments in there. There are several parts of that Constitution that are otherwise either not observed or otherwise put aside. And that has to do with mobility, and it has to do with a few other things. And although the lockdown, the curfews, and the stuff that we were going through for the long period of time were lifted, they were never. It was never ceased. So we are still under a state of emergency. Because we're still under a state of emergency, the Panamanian government has and continues to have the authority to, as you would say, perform a take-back-see, right? You know, we're going to go ahead and reinstitute these quarantines, or we're going to make these changes. So they still maintain the ability, the constitutional ability to make these changes as far as our mobility goes, and as far as, you know, how businesses and the economy is going to be affected and whatnot. So one of those items that they put out there, which would affect them making these changes or reinstituting some of these bans and dry laws and whatnot, is the RT number. And, you know, they had said very, very clearly that if the RT goes above 1, that's going to be one of the things they're going to take into consideration when it comes to putting some of these restrictions back. And, you know, it's been a while now that the RT has already passed its limit of that 1. And other indicators that were established for decision making have also been indicated. The lethality, right? The availability of hospital beds in the wards and in the hotels. The availability of beds in intensive care. So these are the things that they had put into consideration. And what they have done is they've instituted a couple of different, or a few different aspects of quarantine and curfews. So the first one being, starting on December 18th, which is tomorrow, and going until January 4th, there is a general curfew and dry law that starts at 7 o'clock p.m. and goes until 5 o'clock a.m. Now, this is not like the last dry law where you couldn't buy alcohol products at all, period. They are limiting it from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. And that's also the curfew. So we have to be in our house. This is every day of the week. This isn't just, you know, a certain number of days. This is the part 1 of the curfew. So every day of the week, starting tomorrow, going until January 4th, unless you have a salvoconducto, you need to be in your home, or off the street anyway, but in your home, in reality, by 7 o'clock. And then you can leave again at 5 o'clock in the morning. It also involves public institutions. They have now been restricted to work with only 50% of their employees, of their official employees, and that is on alternative days. So whichever day they choose, and I don't have the information on what days, but say, you know, if it was started on a Monday, right? So 50% of their staff can work Monday, no work on Tuesday, no work on Wednesday, no work on Friday, etc., etc., etc. That's how that goes. And if you are involved in a public institution, or if you're an employee, or if you're a public official, you already know this. But if you have the need to contact a public office, and if I get that information, later today or tomorrow, or maybe during the week, I'll put it up in the usual places. But that's according to the original Panama Solidario plan, and obviously in the preparation of and distribution of food bags and nationwide during the days that don't. Every other day. Okay, so basically that's what's going to happen. You know, if you expect a service, or if you're getting a service and it was on a daily basis from a public institution, it's going to go every other day. So far we've got that covered. Like I said, and I'm going to mention this several times through the show. Starting tomorrow, going to January 4th, there is a general curfew from 7 o'clock p.m. to 5 o'clock a.m., and that includes, consuming alcohol. I would assume consuming. Now, sanitary fences. As of December 23rd, which I believe this is where I go to switch my calendar. I know some of you going, oh, you should have this already. Yeah, I know. So the 23rd is Wednesday. Okay, this coming Wednesday. So as of this coming Wednesday, from 5 o'clock a.m., that's 5 o'clock in the morning, until the following Monday at 5 o'clock in the morning, there are going to be sanitary fences in place at La Pesa de la Correa, Divisa, La Villa, Chagres, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, Vigui, and some other places. And those are primarily to keep the people that are in the city area, in the Panama City area, Panama City West, there. As we have already told you, that has been a major source of the rise in the infection cases and a rise in the RT in the interior and out here in the provinces on this side of the country. So the second part of it involves the holidays, and this is where I think has been a source of some confusion, because this is not like instead of, this is in addition to the general quarantine from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. from the 18th to the 4th. And this involves Christmas and New Year's. So from Friday, December 25th, that's Christmas Day, starting at 7 p.m., this does not start Christmas Eve, this starts Christmas Day at 7 p.m. until Monday, December 28th at 5 a.m., excuse me, there is a total quarantine. That means you are in your house Christmas Day at 7 p.m. and you don't leave your house until 5 o'clock the following Monday morning. So basically, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 7 p.m. You don't go out Saturday morning or the 26th at 5 a.m. You're in from 7 p.m. on the 25th until December 28th at 5 a.m. Similarly, for the New Year's holiday, and yes, I know this may not make much sense, and I haven't really heard from anyone, from any officials, as to why they did this, but the total quarantine starts on New Year's Day, January 1st at 7 p.m. until Monday the 4th at 5 a.m. Now, we know that a lot of the parties and a lot of the get-togethers and a lot of the agglomerations are on New Year's Eve, which is December 31st. So I'm not really 100% sure if this is just something that got away from them. They were just looking at a calendar or what. But as of now, it stands at 7 p.m. on January 1st. Be prepared that they might make a change in that. They might make an amendment to that to start at 7 p.m. on December 31st. Again, that has not been released. All right, that is not official information. The official information is January 1st at 7 p.m. But it's my understanding that a lot of people have been contacting MINSA and asking them, why are you not protecting us from New Year's Eve parties? So that might be something you might want to keep an eye on. Or if you are trying to plan something, for New Year's Eve, please, I hope you're doing it according to, what's allowed, which actually is nothing, because that stuff has not been approved. But just for the sake of your own peace of mind, be prepared for a change in that. And it may never come. It may never come, but you never know. Things change on an hourly basis here. The process of things like construction and authorization of public works that are strategic for the health emergency, like city health departments and the ITSC, all that's going to be maintained, and anyone who works in those fields are excluded from all of this, because these are essential services. Health departments, essential, right? Public works are essential. Landslides, road construction, passageways, and the infrastructure. Obviously, if there's a problem on the road, they're not going to take a day off. They'll be out there fixing it, and that also includes, water line systems and power grid and whatnot. Those industries and the people who work will be available as 24/7. Now, the last part, and there has been some confusion about the beaches and the rivers and swimming pools and blah, 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 because one of the initial reports that came out had the incorrect date. And I've gotten a lot of messages about this. So this is the latest official information from Mensa, okay, regarding the beaches, rivers, swimming pools, public spas, and social areas. These are prohibited from December 23rd, which I think I said is Wednesday, to January 4th, not the 18th. Initially, it was put out, it was the 18th, which is tomorrow. That's not correct. The correct information, as far as the last piece of information that I have from the Panamanian government, is December 23rd to January 4th, which means no, you cannot go to the beach, you can't go to the river, your favorite swimming hole, swimming pools, and this also covers if you live out in the city, or if you're listening from David, where they have apartment buildings in Bocas del Toro. I know we reach out sometimes to Santiago, and of course, via the internet, all over the place. So if you live in an apartment complex that's got a courtyard, or it's got an apartment complex swimming pool or a weight room or something like that, that also is on the prohibited list. So you got that, and you've got, so they call those social areas, but we know what they are, right? Public spas, gyms, swimming pools, rivers, and beaches. From December 23rd to January 4th, it's no bueno, okay? You can't go there. And they specifically singled out the social areas and apartment buildings because there was a lot of confusion to that. And the last time they had a lockdown, people were unsure of whether the facilities that are provided by some of these high-rise apartment buildings, or apartment buildings in general, well, that is considered private property, so it's part of my building, so I should be able to go there. And there was a lot of contention among that, so they made sure that they got that squared away this time. So if you live in an apartment building and there's a weight room and there's a pool and whatnot, that counts as part of the restricted areas. Okay, so and also neighborhood facilities, obviously, public parks, public pools, and whatnot. And that is directly as a result of resolution number 1386, which was from December 11th, last week, to where it is prohibited carrying out any activity that involves crowds in public, commercial places, or of any kind. So the next question obviously is going to be, well, what about work? There's a lot of people that work here, you still have to have meetings for work, and obviously, that's a very good question. So they specify that in the case of work meetings, there's a maximum of 10 people allowed, and they still have to comply with the biosafety protocols, okay? So that means you have to wear a mask, stay, 6 feet apart, 2 meters apart, someone needs to be spraying the alcohol on your hands and taking your temperature. That hasn't changed, but there are a lot of businesses here, particularly service related businesses like real estate companies and whatnot. They still have to meet. You still have to do business, and the Panamanian government understands that. You still have to do business. This is not a total shutdown of the economy. So they have made they've made a way for you to do that. So 10 people. Complying with the biosafety protocols. What about shopping? All right. Supermarkets can receive only one person per family, and I know it. I know it's kind of maybe you stand 6 feet behind your spouse and you go in separately, but it's not that hard to tell if you're in the grocery store with your husband or your wife. So you probably shouldn't try that. I know it's very enticing and very tempting. I'm the worst. I will tell you this. I'm the worst person to send into the grocery store for food or produce or anything, really. So I'll go in with a list of healthy. Go pick up some lettuce and tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers. And I come out with Captain Crunch and Pop-Tarts and Cheetos and Oreos. So it's probably best that I'm not allowed in the grocery store. And I know some of you guys can relate. But anyway, one person per family. If as in my case, where there's only one driver in the house, well, I just drive my wife to the grocery store and I sit in the parking lot and play video games on my phone while she does the shopping. But either way, find a way to do that, because you don't want to be banned from the grocery store, especially if you're in an area where there's like only one convenient grocery store, and they will do that. They're kind of really gonna be taking this seriously, and if you notice, there are teams of Mensa employees patrolling the area here. I've seen them in Boquete. They're going in and out of the Tuesday market. By the way, both Tuesday markets, the Tuesday market at the Feria and the one over at Tap Out, have been doing a fantastic job keeping within the protocols, letting only 25 people in, making sure people have their masks on. Thus, they haven't been sanctioned. There's been no problems. There's been no issues. So I just wanted to shout that out. The people that run both those markets are friends of mine. So go there and buy stuff. All right. Airports, ports, and borders are going to stay open. That is another source of a lot of questions I've been getting. People have been sending me PMs. Well, we're due to land on the 28th or the 29th, and another friend of mine, picking up family members at the airport to bring them back here. The airports, ports, and borders are going to remain open. The only sticking point is getting back from the airport to here in Cherokee. Obviously, if you live here, from the last time, you want to keep some sort of identifying document that you live here. Maybe even if the power bill isn't in your name, a power bill, maybe a copy of your lease. In some cases, on the back of your visa, it gives, or your driver's license, one of the two, I can't remember, will tell you what province you live in. I'm pretty sure it's a driver's license, but I could be wrong on that. The tickets, if you have and this is the latest information I have. If you have the boarding passes or the stub from the boarding passes from people you are picking up, you might be able to get out of Panama City with that. Again, this is not official information. This is the information that I'm getting from people that I know that work in the government, but nothing official has been put out. And if I do get detailed information on that, I promise you I will forward that to you. It's getting back to the airport that might be a problem. So if your friends and family are coming in, later in the quarantine, the 28th, 29th, it might just be good for you to hang out in Panama City for a few days, and when it's lifted, just come on out. Health recommendations to the population, and again, this comes from Mensa, and there's only a few of them. So basically, they are pleading with us to stay in open areas with air circulation. Look, we got a vendor in a truck with a big loudspeaker. What do we got today? Pineapples. Ooh, I might have to track him down. If you watch the videos for this show, you notice that I don't have a mask on. I'm outside, there's nobody here, and when there is somebody here, they're at least 10, 12 feet away from me. And this is the ideal if you're going to have to get into a situation, to where you need to meet with somebody. Stay out. See if you can stay outside. Avoid indoor activities. Again, the use of a mask is mandatory. Face shields, probably a good idea if you're on public transportation. And that's not just me bus. That's, out here, you have the big buses out here, and you have taxis, and you have the coasters and the microbuses. I've seen people wear the shields, their face shields, just going to the grocery store. You can get these shields at most pharmacies for $1. You don't have to get the Mandalorian mask version one. They're cheap. So again, the face shield isn't mandatory. The mask use is mandatory when you're out in the street, but face shields are suggested. They ask that we comply with. And this is a tough one, and I know this is tough, and you kind of got to think, well, did these people ever take a bus? To comply with public transportation distancing, keep windows and hatches open. Sometimes it's difficult to do that. Just do your best. Seriously, if you have to hop on a bus, it's actually on the onus of the excuse me. It's on the onus of the bus driver to make sure that these protocols are followed. They don't always do it. That's not a dig. It's not a judgment. Their job is hard enough trying to navigate without being distracted. But if you can possibly keep away from other people on the bus. I know it's easier on the bigger buses, but I've been on some of these coaster buses, and I've been on a lot of the mini buses, and it's not that easy. So try, okay? As far as food delivery, delivery from 7 p.m., the sale and delivery of liquor is excluded, meaning, and I know this is kind of an ambiguous way to say this, after 7 o'clock, if you remember back what I talked about 10, 15 minutes ago, after 7 o'clock, there's no alcohol, okay, which means it can't be delivered either. So, get your booze before 7 o'clock and before Christmas Day, or before 7 o'clock Christmas Day, before 7 o'clock on New Year's Day. And offices and work areas must have air circulation. So these are the three major, and I hope, I know I've repeated myself a lot here, but I really need, I would really like for everyone to be clear on the three different types of curfews and quarantines that is out. So one more time real quick, and in a bullet point, all right? Christmas, 7 p.m., Christmas Day, 7 p.m., this 25th until Monday at 5, the following Monday, 5 p.m. New Year's Day, 7 p.m. until 5 a.m. the following Monday. Again, be prepared. There might be a change from New Year's Day the 1st to New Year's Eve. I don't know. Like I said, it's not official, but it could happen. All right. Beaches and, I'm sorry, what do you call it? Security fences around Panama East, that goes into effect on the 18th. Beaches from the 23rd, not from the 18th. The beaches from the 23rd. So make sure, if you have plans to go to the beach, rivers this weekend, I think you're okay as long as you maintain your physical distancing, yada, yada, yada. But from the 23rd to the 4th, no beaches, rivers, public spas, pools, and whatnot. That's pretty much it. I mean, if you have more questions, just PM me. You all know how to get a hold of me by now. And also, remember the airports, ports, and borders are going to remain open, but getting in and out of Panama City might be tricky. Okay, so that is what I have to. That's what I got for you on there. Just real quick. Yesterday, we hit 2 records yesterday, and they're not the kind of records that you really want to jump up and have a party about. We surpassed 200,000 infections. And yes, there have been a good majority of them have already been through it. They've survived it, But we have surpassed 203,295 infections that have been reported since they started keeping track of this, and we've also broke the record for single reported infections in one day, and that is 3,348. Positivity rate has now climbed above 20%. It's 20.7%. And the death rate's doubled as of yesterday for that one day anyway. It's 42 new deaths. So we've lost 3,481 people. That's a fatality rate of 1.7, which, granted, yes, it is still less than the 2.2% worldwide. But it's still a terrible thing. So there are still 30,000 people in isolation, 29,000 people that are quarantined at home, and there are 744 in the hotels, 1,563 total in the hospital, 1,390 in hospital rooms, and there's 173 people in intensive care at the moment. So I know it's been, it's always tough when you read about and when you hear about, when you talk to people that that are not, that have this disease that aren't asymptomatic, and it has been generally not affecting children. Generally children have been and if you do get infected, it's a very, very small amount, and there's very few fatalities, very few hospitalizations. But yesterday, TVN2 posted an article by Alejandro Reyes that warned us that there are increasing cases of children with COVID-19, and this is especially problematic because the vaccines, depending on Pfizer is no one under 16, Moderna is no one under 17, and we're going to have Dr. Shannon call in here in a few minutes. I'll give you a cue, Doc, because this is not my wheelhouse, but I did want to let you know that children do become infected with COVID-19, and this past Thursday, yesterday, Raquel Rivera, is it Rivera? Rivera, she's the supervisor of the intensive care unit at the Pediatric Specialist Clinic in the Social Security Fund. Statistically, the percentage of children under 18 that are contracting COVID is going up. I think it's 141 to whereas there before that they were maybe 30 or 40, and there have been 5 deaths. And I know in the grand scheme of things it doesn't seem like a lot, but we know this virus is mutating. We've heard stories about they found new strains in the UK and they find new strains here and there, but basically the reason I brought that up was because you protect your kids, man. I've seen, I've been out and about, and I see parents walking around with their masks on, and the kids aren't. And I guess maybe that's a false sense of security because it's always kids don't get it, but kids do get it, and more kids are getting it. So just please protect the kids. Let's see if we can get Doc Shannon, Dr. Tour to Doctora Shannon Tour to call in. She hasn't the phone number, so I want to talk about some of this stuff with the vaccine, and I'm going to keep yapping on here until she gets through. In planning for the vaccine, for the Pfizer vaccine, which has to have really, really cold temperatures, we already have freezers to accommodate some 450,000 Pfizer vaccines. As you know, it's been approved, and the big thing was how to store it because it does take sub-zero, way sub-zero, like 70 below centigrade or Celsius, depending on what you want to call it, to store this vaccine. And so Panama is we're kind of ahead of the curve on this because we've already got the freezers. 4 of the freezers are at the Gorgas Memorial Institute. And also the drug deposit of the Social Security Fund located in Divisa, Herrera province. So we have the facilities to hold us. We've ordered them. They're on the way. People who are going to be getting vaccines, obviously, they're going to be in stages, and the people who they deem need it most are going to get it first. Healthcare workers are on that list. The infirmed, the disabled are on that list. Essential employees, and there hasn't really been a list per se, right? So this is, but they have said that these types of people are going to be getting this vaccine. It was approved. Pfizer was approved already. That was based on legal framework way back in October. And also way back in January. They knew this was coming. They knew that it was going to be vaccines. They got ahead of the curve by a long shot. Hey, Doc.
Hey. Hey, I hear you talking about the vaccines over there.
Yeah, I just basically started on it. I wanted to let everyone know that Panama's gotten ahead of the curve on this as far as Pfizer has made it very clear that when they do get this vaccine out, they want to make it available, and Panama has got enough freezer space now for 450,000 doses. That's between Gorgas and
and that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And they're having to do that with not just here, but they had to do it in the States too. They actually are going around and they're setting up special freezers to keep the Pfizer vaccine cold enough.
Yeah, and it's because of that. The countries like Panama and the States and the UK, the ones that have already prepared, they're the ones that are like ahead of the list. It really doesn't have anything to do. I know people are like, all the rich countries are going to get it. Pfizer was releasing these vaccines based on, are you prepared to store it?
Exactly. That's the most important thing, because they want to get it out there. They want it done, and they want it out there. They want people vaccinated, and the most important thing for them is the cold storage. If they don't have the cold storage facilities to send it to, then there's no way to maintain the integrity of that vaccine.
Yeah, and that was right on the top. I mean, when I look at what Mensa has put on their on the list of priorities, the first one obviously was identifying who was going to be vaccinated first. So they singled out health workers, the elderly, security forces, etc. But the very next thing in priority was to logistics, which includes transfer, storage, and a cold chain and distribution. So that shows you that it's, and it really, it really makes me happy. As happy as you can be in a pandemic, right?
Yeah, really.
To know that they're preparing for this, and the government's gotten a lot of flack from naysayers and whatnot, and that's a whole other show. But we're prepared for this. They've already got the logistics in place for it. So I think they said somewhere in the first quarter of January, February, and March, they're going to start rolling this out. And when you look at some of these other countries, they're looking at the end of next year and into 2022. I'm sorry. I mean, I got to give a shout out to the way the government has got this set up.
They're doing an awesome job. They want to get it rolled this out as quickly as possible. Obviously, seeing the number of positive test results coming up this past week or the past couple of weeks, we're getting into dire straits. So
we broke three records yesterday. I know I said two. We broke three records yesterday. We went over. We passed 200,000 infections. We passed 3,000 daily infections, and the death rate, I think, at 42. I think that's the highest daily death rate that we've had. I have to look back
I actually have a couple of pictures of the stats coming through every single month, the amount of infections and the amount of death rates. And you're correct. This is probably the most amount of infections that we've ever had, as well as the most a record for the amount of deaths in a 24-hour period.
Yeah. And then you combine Mother's Day with Thanksgiving. You have three major points of agglomeration. You have the Canadian Thanksgiving, which is in October, and then you have Thanksgiving, which is in obviously November. Then Mother's Day at the beginning of December. And I think.
And don't forget Fiestas Patrias.
When is that?
We had the Fiestas Patrias, the Independence Day.
Right, the Independence Day. So now what we're seeing now, I guess, is a result of that. And I know everyone's, you've taken my holidays away. And look, I get it. I know it's frustrating. But Christmas and New Year's, I don't even want to imagine what the middle and the end of January is going to look like. I mean,
I'm terrified. I'm terrified myself, because I know that people are going to try and get around the guidelines as much as possible, thinking, it can't happen to me, but it can.
Yeah, and in that vein, it's I get a lot of inquiries, and for the most part, they're just people wanting to clarify information. And okay, fine, hey, can you tell me again, when can we go out? When can we buy alcohol? But I get a lot of them where I can, sometimes you have to read between the lines, but sometimes it's blatant. How can I get around this?
Right.
How can I do what I want to do and not get caught? And
right, exactly. And that's not the way that we should be looking at this. We should be looking at, hey, it's just a little bit longer. The vaccine is rolling out. We're waiting for the vaccine. Hang in there. You can do it. Nobody wants to spend their Christmas alone. Nobody wants to get stuck in their house, but it's just a little while longer. Hang in there.
There's, the logistics. The logistics of this is it could be, it's a nightmare. It really is, and I've done a fair amount of logistics in other industries where there isn't a health emergency involved, but oh my gosh, you got to figure that. All right, you've got placement, right? Distribution, storage of the vaccines. That's a whole thing on of its own. And then you have barcode systems, because they need to figure out, where, when, and who was dosed, was inoculated. And they got to take all that information and put it into a database. Ooh, man.
I can't imagine the headaches that this is creating.
But no, then you got vaccine batches, temperature records, distribution applications on a national level. You got MINSA, Social Security Fund, the PAI. I think we might have lost her. Did we lose you? I think we might have lost. Her. Well, Bolivar, our engineer, is working on this right now. But in that vein, like I was saying, until Dr. Auditor comes back. Oh, there you are. You're back. We lost you for about a minute.
Oh, there you are. I am. I know. It's terrible, the signal. Yeah, so like you were saying, the logistics is just a nightmare. Getting everybody vaccinated is going to be another nightmare. And, hopefully people will have a little bit more trust in the vaccine now that they've seen people like Mike Pence and his wife get the vaccine.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. The Surgeon General got the vaccine this morning, I believe.
Yeah, well, and I know that, this it's particularly frustrating for those of us that are in the news business, and it's got to be 10 times more frustrating for people like yourself that are in the healthcare industry, just trying to combat a lot of this misinformation, about vaccines in general. I'm not talking about your rabid anti-vaxxers that are convinced Bill Gates is putting a RFDI microchip in the syringe and blah, 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 but people who are generally...
No, not the conspiracy theories. Right. You're right. It's just the general misinformation about everything.
Yeah.
And the general mistrust of the information coming out.
Yeah, and especially, vaccines are a touchy subject, and you don't have to be an anti-vaxxer, to get to be susceptible to misinformation. There's just a lot of misinformation out there, and I know that, and I don't know what the percentages are here in Panama, but I know in the States that there won't be that herd immunity until 100 million people are vaccinated.
Right.
And
we're talking about like 70%, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And that's 100 million of the people that obviously, when you look at the population of the United States, you say, that's 100 million isn't 70%, but they're discounting children, they're discounting people who just for whatever reason can't
get it. There's certain people that can't.
But 100 million people. So if you do the math, there's got to be probably maybe not counting the children and the people here, probably somewhere around 1.82 million, maybe around there. And
around there, I would say you're right. Yeah.
And there's a lot of people. I mean, I'm reading these stories where 50% of any given population is not willing to take the vaccine. Well, that's just not going to work.
No, and it won't. And it doesn't matter that we've had so many infections, too, because those kind of infections, for some reason, are not giving long-term immunity necessarily. It especially depends on the amount of antibodies that your body formed during your infection and how severe the infection was. So, unfortunately, we found that the herd immunity requires that we vaccinate as well.
Yeah, and the government here has maintained that, even if the vaccines, are rolled out in January, even if it's a logistical miracle and they start vaccinating people in January, February, they've maintained that the biosecurity measures, the masks and the hand washing and the social distancing needs to go well into the middle of 2021.
It may be even the entire 2021 they're talking about. So the hand washing, the masks, the distancing, yeah.
Yeah, because they're worried about, and it's all got to do with these reimposing of the restrictions.
Right.
Their point of view, from the information that I have, they're looking to try to find ways to counteract the resistance of not meeting in closed spaces without masks, or not obeying until the vaccination is out there for a while. I mean, I know that Sucre, a lot of people criticize him the way he speaks, and but you know what, the guy has a clue. If you look at his background, he's a really good choice for being a minister of health. And when he looks at ways to try to be flexible. They knew that in an increase of cases, were going to come. They obviously they were aware of this is going to happen. And he said, well, he's looked at what other countries have done, so they were prepared for this. But the spanking that we're getting now, it shouldn't really be a surprise. I know we've talked about this, and we talked about we're going to end up getting put on lockdown again.
Yeah, because we were warned. We were warned. Don't get into groups. Don't go, form groups in public. Best not to go out to eat. Try and eat at home. Try and get takeout. But obviously people are sick of being in quarantine, and, people want to take their chances. Yeah. And this is what happened, unfortunately, and we were expecting it.
Yeah, and the minister said, and I'm paraphrasing here, because I can't find it on my notes here, but I'm paraphrasing that, that we must find a way to lower or contain these numbers to give Panama time for the vaccine to arrive and to really get this thing under control.
Exactly. They were trying, and unfortunately, things got out of control more quickly than anybody thought it would. With all the different holidays we'd had, and with people traveling across provinces, that's what happens.
Yeah, and that's those are the things that actually all of Minsa and all the way up to El Presidente. It's
he had to quarantine. He had to get quarantined.
It's like if they have to wait 3 months for the vaccine to get here and roll out, that means that we need to be prepared to be dealing with this pandemic for 6 months. If it takes 6 months, like you said, all of 2021, it's not going to go away quickly.
It depends on how quickly we can get people vaccinated. And remember, it's a 2-part vaccination, so it's 3 weeks apart. And you're not actually immune until a couple weeks after receiving your vaccination. So there's still another couple weeks after you get your second shot that you can still get sick.
Yeah, and even with the differences, like the differences between the Pfizer vaccine and the Moderna vaccine, they're actually very similar from the information that I have. But that's that booster shot. On the Pfizer, I think is 3 weeks, and I think on Moderna is 4 weeks, and Pfizer is no one under 16, and Moderna is no one under 18, I think. You can find you can find comparisons on that.
That's about the information that I have as well, and so you're still looking once you get all the groups vaccinated, and we're talking about mid next year. That it's still going to take a couple weeks after that for it to take actual effect.
Yeah, to catch up, and it's unfortunate that people are having there is a very, very minuscule percentage of the people, who have been vaccinated already that have had some adverse allergic reactions.
Just like with any other vaccination, it's correct. Not very severe, not very, life-threatening. I guess it was like two people in Britain.
Yeah, one person in Alaska. But the some of the let's just say some of the less responsible media sources out there, they're focusing on this, and then they're throwing scare words in.
Right, exactly.
Like look at Bell's palsy. There are a myriad of things that will cause Bell's palsy, but people hear palsy.
They actually found out that was false information.
They did.
Somebody posted.
This is why we have Talking with Your Doctor.
and Boquete Now.
And Boquete Now.
To keep us updated.
So that's
we
good
rely
to know.
on you, Al.
If you're out there reading stories about Bell's palsy, well, you heard it from the doctor herself. That isn't because people hear the word palsy, they think cerebral palsy, and then that just does not go down a very productive road.
It doesn't. Then the people say, "Well, I'm not getting the vaccine. You get the vaccine." Type of deal, and then there's all the rumors that it's going to be mandatory. Well, I don't think you can make a vaccine mandatory for the entire world.
No.
Everybody that can get vaccinated should.
Yeah. Now there are countries that are trying that. The Brazilian the Brazilian Supreme Court just this morning, I think, or maybe late last night, voted that they're going to make the vaccine mandatory, and if you don't take it, there's going to be sanctions. I don't know what sanctions, Bolsonaro's going to pull out of his butt, but
yeah.
But you can't do that worldwide. Like you said,
No, you can't.
You can't, and I don't even know how that's going to work in Brazil.
It's going to be difficult to force everybody to do it. And, it's one thing if you want to say, okay, well, if you're going to travel, then it's mandatory. Yes, that makes sense because there's a lot of vaccines that are mandatory to travel.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you
it's
can.
Always,
if you're I think even here in Panama, if you're going to be down near the Darien, you have to have a yellow fever or malaria or something.
It's recommended, recommended to have your yellow fever. Yep.
Yeah. And there's also a lot of misinformation out there about what's in the vaccine. And like I said, I wish I had this information in my hand when I was on your show last week, because you had Dr. Tour on, who was an allergist. And
right.
I can kick myself because I thought about it the other day, and I'm like, I should have this is what I should have done. But that was kind of an impromptu thing. But people were concerned about some of the ingredients, and I got this little article here, and I'm not going to read it because it'll take 10 minutes. But one little paragraph here says what's in the vaccine, and it says the good news is that Pfizer's mRNA vaccine doesn't contain any known allergens like eggs or metals. And then he quotes Dr. David Stutkus, the director of the Food Allergy Treatment Center at the Children's Hospital, said there are no derivatives of food allergies. There's no aluminum or mercury or anything like that. There's nothing in there that's inherently allergenic. So there's people out there, they put this in there. There's formaldehyde, there's metal, there's aluminum, there's mercury, there's eggs, there's all this other stuff. Not the case here.
Yeah, none of that stuff appears in this vaccine. And I did see the list, and it's true. It doesn't mean to say that you can't have a reaction to something in the vaccine. Everybody's different.
Right.
But it's your basic vaccine. There's nothing extremely special about the vaccine except that it needs to be kept very cold, and that you need a booster. So, but it's just like any other vaccine. Yes, it didn't go through years and years of testing, but we don't have the luxury of time right now.
No, we don't. We don't. I've got to defer to the science on this. I mean, that's my general go-to anyway. But we hear about some of these vaccines and some of these medications taking years and years and years. And back in the day, I was affiliated with a German company that manufactured diabetic pumps and albuterol, and not albuterol, but inhalers and whatnot that had the medication in them. And I had to look through the process in order to set the computers up for the right amount of medication to go into these devices. And I'm seeing some of these things have been in the 3, 4, 5 years, in the approval process.
It's the information they collect is every single little reaction that somebody might have had. Everything you see on the FDA, they list gazillions of symptoms and reactions and possible reactions, and we don't even know that it's from the actual vaccine or medication that's causing it. But according to law, it has to be reported as a possible reaction to a product.
Right. Well,
so and a lot goes into testing these products before they're actually put out on the market.
Yeah.
Even in this case, it's been tested and retested, and many different types of groups of people.
Yeah.
So.
Well, when the vaccine comes out, please, everybody, just take it. I mean, I know I'm going to get a whole lot of feedback on that, but.
We want to get back into our normal lives.
Yeah,
get the vaccine.
We really do. We really do. I mean, I want to go eat at a restaurant again and not feel like I'm gonna I'm going to have a dose of COVID with my steak. We really would like to have my friends over, go to see we all want to get past this, and we're not going to do it
exactly
until we get to a certain base level of acceptable numbers and acceptable, and we're not going to do that without everyone's cooperation.
Yeah, and it's not going to happen like a miracle with the vaccine. It's going to still take everybody wearing their mask, washing their hands, and staying away from big groups of people.
Right. All right, we got about 5 minutes left, and I got to go over a couple things before we go. But Doc, thanks for calling in.
Thank you for having me on.
You're always a voice of reason when it comes to the health and safety of our community here, and you're a wonderful person.
I appreciate all of the information that you put out there online and everything, and keep up the good work, and let me know when I can be of help. You
got it. We'll talk to you later.
All right, thanks.
Bye. That was Dr. Shannon Tour. Most of you know her from Clinica, especially as I can't pronounce that. I'm so very sorry about that. I am guilty many times of murdering the Spanish language, although I am trying daily to learn. I did want to let everybody know, I know that some of you have been following the efforts of myself and minimally myself, but mainly, the 4 or 5 or 6 of us, 8 of us really, that have adopted the school, Escuela Estrella de los Valles up in Jaramillo, and we recently had an auction. 84 items, everything from food baskets to gift certificates to jewelry, were donated by businesses and private individuals in this community. And we had an auction at Boulder 54, and thank you again, Chris. I know you probably were real busy, you couldn't stop by, but Chris has been wonderful. Chris Young has been absolutely wonderful in helping us out with this. And then we had an online auction, and we were able to provide. We had enough income, enough proceeds to feed every one of these 36 families, almost 140 children. And give them special provisions for the holidays, frozen hams and whatnot, and to provide a Christmas for these kids. And yesterday, a dozen of us caravanned our pickup trucks and SUVs all the way up there. We met at the school to distribute these bags of food and these bags of Christmas presents. Now, keep in mind, we kept all our biosecurity was in place. We had a table. My wife Day was at the table taking temperatures and spraying alcohol and logging names. This is like we're supposed to do, especially considering it's a school. And there were other things that Meduca had insisted that we abide by, and we made sure that we did our level best to make sure we kept within all of their protocols. But it was indescribable. When we handed the food and the gifts to these parents, even with the masks on, right? You can see it in their eyes. You can see the smiles on their faces, and to be able to make a difference in the lives of those who are less fortunate or indigent, without really, we don't expect anything in return. None of us really have our name on the website because it's not important. It's not about us. But they say it's better to give than receive. And if you were there and you saw the reaction. It made it all the hard work worth it. The endless days and endless hours of wrapping things and shopping and the logistics, trying to get all this together, and the auction, and it's worth every ounce of sweat that we had given, and I just wanted to say thank you to this community, to those who have donated to Operation Feed Estrella, to those who bid on our auctions, who donated through GoFundMe. It isn't just Boquete, it's all over Panama, the U.S., Europe, one person from Asia. it blows my mind. Again, the unceasing spirit of generosity that this community has. You have made the lives of 36 families of almost 140 children that much better at a time of the year when very often they see others and they go without, and especially now in a pandemic when there's so much unemployment. The poverty is even more extreme than it usually is. Just to give a bright spot for the holidays for these kids, and to give some food security, which is basic, right? To give some food security to these families so they know that they will be fed, and we'll be going up there every month in the months to come to bring monthly food. So from the bottom of the hearts of those of us who are involved in Operation Feed Estrella, we thank you so very much. We absolutely love and adore you, and you have made a difference in the lives of so many people in our community. Anyway, you've been listening to Boquete Now, Talk Radio, on Radio Cherokee 103.3 FM. Sponsored by Big Daddy's Grill, Boulder 54, the Tap Out Sport Zone. And we will see you next week, and same time, same bad channel. In the meantime, thank you, Dr. Tour, for calling in. We appreciate your input. Y'all have a great day. Paz un buen día. Mi amigos, mi amigas, hermanos y hermanas. We'll see you next week.